I'm Taylor Gibson. I'm the manager of programming here at the Cedars Union. Tonight we have our monthly lecture series. This month we're doing our panel discussion with CIMA, DAAART Club, Dallas Asian American Art Club, and Black Arts DFW. They're going to be talking about finding a community to be a part of, equitable solutions to community, and how to get involved.
Hello everyone, my name is Christina Hahn. I am a Cedars Cohort 4 artist, and I'm so happy to see everyone here today. So I'm going to start with a quick round of bios, just bragging about our incredible panelists tonight, and then we'll be going into a description of all of our organizations before we dive into questions, and then of course we will leave room at the end for questions from the audience. So if you do have a question that comes up, please remember it so that you'll be able to ask it to us at the end of the discussion. Thank you. Okay, so starting with Reyna. Reyna Cecilia Ramirez was born in Mexico in 1999 and moved to Dallas in 2004. Ramirez received a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree with a concentration in painting and a minor in art history from the University of Texas at Arlington. In 2022, she was awarded the IDEA Fellowship through UTA, which commenced a passion for curation. With roots dating back to 2018, Ramirez is actively involved in serving the community that is congruent to her development as an artist through the production of local rotating shows and art events with a nonprofit organization, CIMA Arts, as a gallery director. Most recently, Ramirez was awarded the 2024 Claire Hart de Gaulier Memorial Fund Grant from the Dallas Museum of Art. Everyone say hello to Reyna. Next, we have Cathryn Mcclellan. She is a dedicated professional who forges genuine connections between companies and diverse communities. She's been actively involved in numerous nonprofit organizations and is committed to fostering equality and inclusivity for all. Cathryn works at American Express, spearheading strategy for external diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in the technology organization. Beyond her corporate endeavors, she is the co-founder of Black Arts DFW, an organization focused on providing Black professionals with educational and experiential opportunities to explore Black arts and culture across North Texas. Black Arts DFW is heading into its third year and has provided over 30 programs and events for professionals interested in becoming more involved as collectors and/or patrons of Black arts. Outside of her professional life, she passionately engages in community work, serving as the chair of the Business Council for the Arts Leadership Arts Alumni, and lending her leadership to the Junior League of Dallas and the Heritage Giving Fund. Recognized for her outstanding leadership, she received the 2021 BCA Obelisk Award was honored as a Black Philanthropy Month Black Women Give Back recipient in 2022. In her free time, you can find her wandering through galleries, catching the last local performance, reading a great book at staycation, or on the couch with her 4 dogs. Everyone say hello to Cathryn. And finally, hello. My name is Christina Hahn. I am a Korean American artist and academic practitioner based here in Dallas. I am the creative director of the Dallas Asian American Historical Society and the founder of the Dallas Asian American Art Collective. I employ a multidisciplinary approach to my practice, ranging from fiber arts to paper mache, oil and acrylic paint, and even wood carving to build an imaginary universe of Korean mythology and Texas folklore. Lots of other stuff. Through my work, I seek to contribute a new perspective of who Asian American artists are and what our work looks like. My art practice is interdisciplinary and fueled by my diverse background in politics, history, and human-centered design, as well as a passion for world building. Most recently, man, I hate talking about myself in this way. Most recently, I was awarded the 2024 Ann and Arch Giles Memorial Grant Fund by the Dallas Museum of Art as well, so hello. So that was actually a lot of reading from me, so I'm actually going to allow our panelists to give a little bit of an overview of what your art organizations are like and what y'all do.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start since I have the spatula thing. So as was mentioned in my bio, I'm the co-founder, or one of the co-founders of Black Arts DFW. Another one of our co-founders is actually in the back, Daryl Ratcliffe. Wave your hand. Okay, awesome. So this organization is focused on bridging the gap between Black artists and Black professionals and to build a better network of patrons and collectors across the region. We know in Dallas there's been such a great boom of diverse artists that are going there, and there's not always the match of energy on the collector side and on the patron side. So this has been our solution to help educate and broaden awareness of the amazing multicultural arts and disciplines that are happening across the Metroplex and get more people engaged in what's happening in a centralized form.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? So CIMA is a small Dallas collective. We aim to bridge the gap between the community and locally produced shows. We try to exhibit different versions of creations, also through rotating shows and collaborative events. We are aiming to also end up teaching like workshops and things like that. And as an art establishment, we engage with issues that arise from marginalized communities, and we firmly believe in supporting the ideas and voices of local artists.
Thank you. And finally, the Dallas Asian American Art Collective, also known as DAAART Club. We are a 501c3 nonprofit operating in Dallas with a mission to connect and cultivate the Asian American and Pacific Islander, AAPI, creative community in Dallas and North Texas as a whole. We aim to connect AAPI creatives to create in a pan-Asian community, amplify AAPI artists, and of course, represent the Asian diasporic perspective in the Texas art scene. We welcome, edify, and amplify all the diverse voices of the Asian American story, South Asians, Southeast Asians, West Asians, Central Asians, and East Asians all, we value and support. We aim to counter the narrative of who and what is defined as Asian by the American mainstream and build shared narratives of our own. So with that being said, we've got a very diverse coalition of arts-based organizations here, and also, as we've all done an age reveal before we started this discussion, we're all led by young women. So I think that's a really interesting and hopeful look at what the future of arts look like in Dallas as a whole, and also the rest of Texas. So with that being said, we'll start with when and how did your relationship with art start?
So I guess mine would really, it dates back to like my family roots. I grew up watching my mom, like she would crochet a lot of things for me growing up, like dresses and stuff. And she would always make like scrunchies for me. And I always thought it was cool to watch my brother. Like he had this like treasure box with like paint markers and like color pencils. And I always thought it was cool to just like watch him do stuff. And I always had coloring books for some reason. And yeah, that's kind of like where it started. I didn't really start taking like art seriously up until I was like in my teens.
I would say very similarly, it started with family, honestly. I think most of us grew up with art in our homes, whether that be art that was bought at big box stores or original pieces, or a family member that was an artist that just had random art that was hanging around. But on another level, growing up here in Dallas, my dad was very involved in the art scene. So we had memberships to the DMA, the Nasher, the Kimball in Fort Worth. We went to the musicals, we went to the opera, we went to the ballet. We were just highly ingrained in the arts from a very beginning for us. I grew up in ballet. My little sister, who's actually our third co-founder, is a cellist. My older sister is a vocalist. All of us kind of had our own little niche of things that we did. And so we knew nothing other than art. I danced through college, and when I came back, I was really trying to figure out how best to ingrain all these things that I know as an adult that wasn't trying to practice anymore, and how do I support the arts that I know and love in this city so very much.
That's so amazing. I love that both of y'all have had a childhood experience, and also just being surrounded in a family that encourages creativity, especially I think as people of color, where sometimes we might be directed towards thinking more pragmatically. And so it's really inspiring to hear about y'all's stories in that way. For me, I think similarly, it was just in me, being born with it in some way, where a story that I like to tell a lot, well, my mom likes to tell a lot, is that when I was like 1 or 2 years old, so I can walk now. She caught me like dragging a marker down the wall of the first floor. And she was like, man, I'm so glad I caught you. But what she didn't realize is that that was my last stop and I'd already done the second floor. And so for me, it's always been something that's been with me even as I studied something else in college and then even went into the private sector right after college, where art continued to be a part of my life. In my gatherings, I would always have like an arts and crafts section of the party / the introverts corner, where we'd always be encouraging one another to produce something and to think a little differently. So continuing into kind of our origin stories, what is your organization's origin story?
So that's a fun one for me. So it kind of goes back into the adulthood of not knowing how to connect with with arts as an adult and having a full-time job and knowing I wasn't going to dance, I wasn't going to sing, I wasn't going to paint. Like that wasn't, no one wants to buy those things or pay for me to do any of those things at least. Y'all are probably wonderful at it. I was not good. So I was very lucky to have a little sister who's an absolute extrovert who met Daryl at a DSO event, and she tricked me into going into a gallery day because my little introvert self would have never done something like that.
What is DSO?
The Dallas Symphony Orchestra, young professional, sorry. So Daryl actually took us around to a lot of the galleries here in Dallas, which is not a scene I had really been exposed to growing up. So it was a new way for me to engage in art. And as 3 young Black professionals, we would leave the gallery and be like, what would it be like if there were more of us here? What would it take to get more of us here? How do we do that? Could we do that? And that kind of led to this brilliant idea about Black Arts DFW. How do we build a collective of people who want to get more ingrained in the arts, want to contribute more, but don't know how? So we've taken our 3 very different backgrounds. My little sister's a software engineer. Daryl is an artist, a curator, a marketing genius, so many different a writer, so many different labels there, and me with my DE&I and marketing background. How do we build a community that makes sense for this type of work and fill this kind of void? And that's where it came from. 3 friends hanging out, had the idea, we took it forward and kept running. And 3 years later now, we're still kicking, which is pretty impressive. We're like, oh, we're doing something. People like it.
Our CIMA origin really starts in like 2018. It was also the same, just some friends, hanging out, wanting to make the space. It really dates back to like 2018, 2019. Juanita, one of our founder and directors as well, we just got together. We didn't really know what we were doing, but we're just like, hey, let's make a show. And we just kind of invited people, and we had a small show of like 16 artists. And it was like a 1 show per year because we were still figuring things out. And then the following year we met Heidi, which is also one of our directors. And we just kind of got together and we doubled it in size. We ended up showing like 30 artists, and then started also incorporating other forms of art, so like local musicians, and started thinking in terms of like installations that we could also put in our shows. And that's really where it took off. Last year, we got officially our nonprofit status, and that's when we really started to kind of like brainstorm, like what more can we do for the community? It's one thing to like provide the space for the artists to like have these shows, but it's another thing to kind of like push forward and like have more services for them. What about the art club? Oh. What about the DAAART Club?
Thank you. Wait, but before that, what did it look like trying to find spaces for your shows?
Oh, it's still kind of the same. Since our shows we don't have like a permanent space. We kind of just like rent venues, and we do like 1-day shows. At first it was really hard because like you have 1 day to, you have like hours, like a couple hours to install. And then have the show, and then that same day you have to take it down. So it's like pretty extreme. But it was really just like going around and just like finding random spots. Like we did one in a warehouse one year. Yeah, and there was like no AC because it was it was a brand new warehouse and it was crazy.
When was it though?
That was 2019. That was like our second.
No, I'm asking you a month.
When was it? What month was it? Oh, I think it was like August or like July. It was like July. Yeah, it was crazy. They told us that there was gonna be AC though, but then they didn't have it by then. But they gave us a discount after. So I guess but
I know, right?
well, our people
July
like.
is-
Yeah, it was pretty bad. But like our guests and the artists were totally like understanding, cause like it was just like a bunch of friends. Like we were inviting our friends to these shows. Like we really didn't really know what we were doing, and we're just kind of like going through with it and just figuring it out. Like now we're a little bit more like we know what we're doing, but like when you're 18 trying to do this and don't really have like any exposure and like you've never even been in a show before and you're trying to make one just for your friends to show, like it's it's a lot. But yeah, we have AC now in our shows.
Yay, that's good. For DAART, I think it was really interesting. So similarly, we started with a very small group of people, 4 people at a coffee shop, and we were also like strangers to one another. So for me, I had gone through a period of life where I'd gone into the private sector, and then I was working at a nonprofit, and then once again, age coming in as a factor. But suddenly one day I woke up and I was 28, which was 2 years away from 30. And I was like, man, I've not taken a risk in my life. I've like done everything correctly. So what would it look like? And this, if I gave myself the chance to take a risk and follow my passion, what would it look like if I engaged in a no longer private, but a public art practice? And then I thought, man, I wish I didn't have to create in a vacuum. So what would it look like if I were creating in community? And more than that also, I know that, so North Texas actually leads the nation in Asian population growth as of 2022 to 2023. And in the DFW, Irving, that Arlington Metroplex, there are 480K API. So with that being said, I looked around with my like friends who were of Asian descent, and I realized that where are all of like the Asian creatives here? Why are we all so normal? And then on the other hand, with my more creative friends and with my friends who are artists, I thought, where are all the Asians at? Because there's so many of us, and I doubt that there aren't any Asian artists. So what would it look like if we brought the two things together? So then, so once again, age revealing. On Facebook, there's this Facebook group called Subtle Asian Traits. So that was actually a really big part of Pan-Asian, like diasporic community building online. From there, so it was essentially a meme page where children of the Asian diaspora would engage with one another and connect with one another. And then they started branching out into specializations. So there was actually a different Facebook group called Asian Creative Network. And then from there, they split off even more. And so there was this thing called Asian Creative Network Texas. So with that being said, Hail Mary, I just posted, hey, does anyone want to grab coffee if they're living in the Dallas area and just talk about what being an artist as an Asian American person is? And then 3 other people showed up. 2 of them were dating each other. So then the 4 of us were at this coffee shop talking. We just met each other, and we stayed there for 5 hours. And then we realized, oh, there's like something here. And then the next month I posted again, more people showed up. And slowly but surely, every month we've been growing. And it got to the point where we have around like 30 to 40 people showing up, all Asian Americans, all creatives, either as hobbyists or as professionals. And larger organizations from Dallas have been asking us to work with them. And so it's been really incredible being able to grow and see how there was a true thirst for this type of community, especially with such a large population here. So that was our origin story, and I'm very grateful that I'm able to be here with such like esteemed peers who have been doing this for 3 years. right? We just hit the 1 year mark, so hopefully we'll be able to get to 3 years soon. I also did want to, just because it's coming up, I think y'all's idea of having a Black Artist Directory is incredible. Can you actually tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so that came out of a need of people asking us where can they find the Black artist.
Yeah.
And of course, Daryl has a directory of who's who in the area, which has been super helpful. But there's so many emerging artists that are coming out, and we wanted to curate a designated place where we could talk about them and share this list, not only with our members, but also with partners. So is there a gallery that's looking for emerging artists? Here we go. Is there a museum that's looking at things? We wanted to be able to have something that we could truly share and not just say, oh, maybe this person or this person, but we wanted to have a full-blown directory. So it's still in the works. If you're here and aren't a part of this part of the thing, you can head to our Instagram page. There's a link in our bio. You can sign up. It allows you to put representation, tell us where your studio space is, what mediums you use, upload pictures, everything like that, and it's updatable as well. So as you grow your portfolio or change mediums or anything, you can submit another one and list it as an update, and we'll go in and update your section of the directory. But really, we wanted it to be more than just who we knew. We wanted it to be so much bigger than us and something that could live on past us, because we could always point to the same general artist on a regular basis, but what is that doing for the larger artist community?
That's amazing. Okay, so this is a question from me specifically. What has the experience of navigating the art world in Dallas been as a person of color, and specifically as someone coming from your community?
I will say we've been a little spoiled in the sense that we are involved in arts spaces outside of Black Arts DFW. So most of us are members of young professional groups, have been in business communities, knew of galleries, and different things like that. So we weren't coming in without any connections per se. And with that, we had our own personal brands as good stewards of the arts. People knew that we were art lovers, we were art collectors. They knew we weren't going to just bring anyone in, and we were going to treat the spaces we were coming into with respect. So I will say we've had possibly a different experience than others in that sense, but still very much one where people have been very welcoming to us. Not saying no, anyone hasn't been welcoming, but sometimes you have to explain why we exist. And we usually get questions of, oh, I'm from this group, could you also post my event? I'm like, love your event, we'll go support it myself, but that's not what this group focuses on. This is not what our social media calendars focus on, and different things like that. Because I am all for collective movement forward, and that we all need to lift one another up, but there also does need to be dedicated spaces for individuals as well. So it's been an interesting journey, but nothing but good on our part, from our experience, from who our partners have been, and the excitement around what we're doing and continuing to do, and people continuing to reach out to us with new opportunities.
I think our journey is a little bit different. So we also didn't really come in with any art space, like official art space connections. I think a lot of our initial support was strictly within our community. Mm-hmm. So Juanita has done a really good job of embracing those relationships with local businesses and even local bars, because sometimes we'll have shows in bars, literally anywhere that we can find a space, we'll make it work. I feel like at this moment now, this was at the beginning, but at this point now that we do have the official nonprofit status, we are making our way into these spaces and being more confident about what we represent and building those relationships for sure.
I really resonate with what you said, Cathryn, in terms of making sure that you're serving your mission. Because if we try to overextend ourselves and we're trying to, in the name of being inclusive, trying to reach out and serve everyone, then we're diluting our own mission. And that's something that I personally have been struggling with. where it's hard to say no to some people, and for some reason, a lot of people who are not of Asian descent feel at home with Asian culture, and so they mistakenly view our space as a place to just learn about Asian culture and take what they want, rather than engaging with us as human beings. So in terms of my experience as an artist of Asian descent in Dallas, what I've learned is that Dallas loves Asian art and Asian culture, but doesn't necessarily include Asian voices and Asian American voices in that conversation. So so we have the Crow Museum of Asian Art, which is a beautiful location, and their staff is so kind. But also it is a place that focuses specifically on Asian imported art. And so it does sting a little when on the Dallas Morning News for like activities you can go to, events you can go to for Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and it says the Crow Museum of Asian Art, which displays like incredible work, but from very well-off Asian imported artists. And then on the flip side, there's also the Asian Film Festival of Dallas, which is once again a really amazing institution, but also there's not really a category for Asian American filmmakers. So a lot of their headlining films are foreign imports, and don't really lean into some of the work that we do. So with that being said, for us, we realize that there is a desire and consumption and like consumer audience for Asian arts, so we should be a part of that conversation. And so that's something that's been really challenging, but we're continuing to work with the Dallas institutions that do exist and just making our way into the room. But it's been a wild ride as well. So pivoting into a happier note, and I'm sorry for sharing that, what has been the most joyful part of having your organization and running it? And then there is, of course, the shadowed part of what has been the most challenging.
I think the most joyful part has definitely been watching my teammates grow and watching them be passionate, and they're just so inspiring. It's amazing to see like where we started and how young we were, and not really knowing what we were doing, but just watching them with the pure desire to like figure things out and make things happen. I think that's for sure like the most joyful part, and just watching us grow as individuals and within the organization as well. The most challenging part is still the same thing. Like we're still kind of like figuring things out, and we have more access now to like people that we can ask questions to, and definitely resources. So, but for sure, like the not knowing is always the most challenging. But you know, it's also the most fun part too, figuring it out.
I think for us, the most rewarding part is really watching people experience things for the first time. There's nothing more magical than taking them into a gallery or a studio visit or a museum or a show and watching their faces light up, to know that they can be in these spaces, that these spaces are places they want to be, first off. And even more powerful when they come to you and say, I bought my first piece of art.
Wow.
And we're just like, oh, that's crazy. Love that. Like, what was it? Like, we want to know more about us. Tell us why you bought the art, all those things. On the challenging note, my co-founders and I, we don't do this full time. This is all a part-time passion project for us. Out of many part-time passion projects, we are all very passionate people. So finding the balance of time and dedication that makes sense for where we are in our lives right now and the other joys that we have is important to us, while continuing to grow this community. I think with all of us, so my little sister is our youngest co-founder. She's 28. Daryl and I are about the same age. And we all are just at this stage of life where we have so many options. And that's terrifying and that's exciting, and we know we want to put energy into this, but it's what is the right balance for each of us to make this happen. We're actually down a co-founder to 2 co-founders right now because my little sister's following her dreams and is in Beijing for the next year. Wow. And we would want nothing more than for her to be there. So how it's one of those things, we're at the stage of how do you keep this community and this organization growing and thriving when we are being pulled in so many different directions. So as we continue on, we'll definitely be thinking about what's the legacy, what's the succession plan, all those wonderful things to make sure it doesn't go when we go, because there's so much power behind what we do.
What does your leadership/volunteer team look like currently?
It's just the 3 of us.
Oh.
It is just the 3 of us. We dabble in adding more volunteers to help with things, but we're not quite at a space to really let other people take the wheels in different spaces quite yet. We'll get there. We're trying very hard because I'm tired. Daryl's tired. We all tired. But we do have folks like I have someone that's now helping me pull together our community calendar every month. So they're searching the web, internet, gallery calendars, everything for the Black Arts that are happening across DFW with me. So it's not just me searching every calendar and trying to put together the calendar every month. I have folks that are sending me social media posts so I'm aware so I can cross-share. So it's starting to happen, but right now it's just the core two of us now doing the work. But luckily we're very passionate about it, so it never drains our cup, but it's just finding the right balance for it.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
Definitely what you said really resonates with me as well. The time management it's so hard because like we started off as a group of 3 that then became 4. And then with 4 we became 7. And even at 7 it was like so much work for us to do. And it also became kind of like, even though we had specific roles, we were having to absorb and like taken a lot of other like roles to do that didn't specifically involve like your role. But something that has helped a lot within the last year is that we started reaching out to universities and looking for interns. And right now we are in the process of kind of learning the process of like having volunteers and how does that like help us with our events and stuff, because the type of like stuff that we want to do is so big that even though we all are artists within the org, like we can't all dedicate all of our time to it because we all work full time. And then some of the members within our org also do like their own like side projects apart from like CIMA stuff, you know? So definitely the time management is like one of the biggest ones.
Speaking of big things, I want you to plug your fair, actually.
Oh, yes. So we are hosting a carnival at the Bathhouse Cultural Center, September 7th. This has been a project that we have been like thinking about for the past year, but everything is just kind of a learning experience, and we didn't have the like team that we needed to be able to do it as big as we wanted because it was so huge. But it's finally happening, and it's like really exciting. We're also having like a pre-event this Saturday on the 24th. I can send details later, and maybe the CU can post it on Instagram. And it'll be just kind of like a promotional event for the carnival, and it's gonna be really fun. We're gonna have games. What's happening at the carnival? We're gonna have games. We're gonna have 6 live graffiti artists. Because we definitely support like different versions of art, and we're gonna have like a lot of local vendors, you know, supporting small businesses. As far as like games, I know we're gonna have a dunk tank too. Oh. And some local musicians, lots of fun stuff. You should come and check it out.
That's awesome. I'm also going to use this opportunity to plug one of our events that are coming up in September as well. So Chef Ray of Sandwich Hag fame of the Cedars Arts District has recently pivoted from closing down Sandwich Hag to starting up Chimlan, the first Vietnamese American coffee shop in Dallas proper. So she's famous for throwing these amazing markets, and DAAART has partnered with her to bring to y'all a Mid-Autumn Moon art market. So that's happening on September 21st. We'll be featuring various different Asian American artists and vendors, as well as a few of our food vendors as well. I believe that's Okuma Burger, Jimlan, and Tidjai. So we'll have beautiful, delicious food and awesome art. And then that will pivot to my answer for some of the most challenging parts and some of the most rewarding parts of running DAAART. I think I'll start with the challenging. The challenging part is setting boundaries, I think, whether that be boundaries of, hey, like we have enough energy and passion and honestly some volunteer workforce to do the thing, but also stepping back and thinking, is this serving our Asian American community of creatives? And then also when it comes to inviting other artists of color into our space as guests, which is something that we have traditionally done, but now we're revisiting due to some of the things that have been happening to us, where it's like, are we making a safe environment for Asian American artists? So like drawing these boundaries has been incredibly challenging because I don't know, for me, maybe I'm just soft, but I figured that having the name Dallas Asian American Art Club would make it clear to people, that, you know, maybe our thing is for Asian American artists from Dallas, but I guess I was wrong. But some of the most joyful parts of running DAAART is, once again, like seeing that moment of connection for people, where for a lot of Asian Americans, especially growing up in Texas, it's a completely different story than growing up in California or New York. For a lot of them, some of the stories of like, oh, I got teased because of my name, or like, oh, I had a lunchbox moment where people thought my food was stinky. These stories are still real for a lot of Asian Texans growing up here. And then, of course, also the some of the challenges that they have experienced from their own communities, where it's like, why are you pursuing art? That's not stable. Are you thinking things through? And so when these individuals meet someone like them, it's like a therapy session. So for the first 2-3 hours, they're sitting, they're connecting, they're saying, oh, your mom didn't want you to go to art school? Me too, but I went anyways. And so it's such a powerful like feeling of knowing that they don't feel alone, and also how they encourage one another to make more art. And so like that has been one of my favorite parts of DAAART. So lots of different experiences here with running our organizations. What are some key things that y'all have learned that if you could go back in time or like talk to your past self, you'd be like, hey, keep this in mind?
Back to the time management piece, that we don't have to do it all. I think we were very ambitious at the beginning, and us taking it down like half notch still is very impressive. So we're still averaging an event a month as an organization, which is crazy to think of. And we didn't really realize that until we sat down and backtracked everything that we did for a year. And we're like, we took 3 months off, and yet we still managed to have basically an event a month, which means there was months that we had 2 or 3 events. So we, once again, always are reevaluating how much time we're putting into this, and what the gains of it is. And then just always thinking about the community first. So what do we hope our community gets out of it? What will be helpful to the community? What are the major things we want them to walk away with? Yes, we would love to go to every studio visit in the world, but is it our time better spent on some of these major institutions first, building those relationships and making sure they feel comfortable in a gallery before we go to a studio? All these different things, and how do we educate a pathway from how does a piece get from a studio to someone's home, to a museum, or to a gallery, all these different things, and how do you explain that to someone that's never had that exposure before? So really just trying to put logic to all the things that we have in our heads that we know because of people we've talked to, the experiences we've had. How do you explain that to someone new to this world, and do it in a way that doesn't terrify people? Because our art can be terrifying. Definitely if you're coming in from the collector/patron side, you only see the big purchases, you only see the major collectors, but what does it look like to be someone starting out in this game? How do you make an impact with $500, $1,000, a couple of thousand if you got them? And how do you do it responsibly for yourself?
I think definitely a key lesson that we've learned is overall like organization within ourselves, like our own internal system. We're a lot better about it now. So like we're creating like inventory to know like all of the stuff that we have, because we were really bad at managing our money at one point because we were doing everything out of pocket. So a lot of things that they were just kind of like not being used, or we would end up forgetting about where they were, and we didn't know like who had things, and you know, things like that were getting lost in translation. I think also definitely like the time management as well. We were really ambitious at first, and we were trying to do the one event per month, but then like that was so crazy. It was way too much work for like 4 of us to start off with. I feel like now we're a lot more organized as well, with like creating almost like a projected event list like the year prior, and being really realistic about how much time can we really invest per project. So like for example, like this year we really had to step back at the beginning of the year and kind of like we gave ourselves about like 5 or 6 months to really like plan out what type of events we were going to do for the year, and like really know how we were going to delegate our time and our energy into those things while also still establishing our brand. I think those were like the major lessons that we were learning.
What types of events do y'all do? Is it all like shows every month?
No. So we try to do like a little bit of everything. So at first, we really just started off as doing like gallery shows. Okay. But last year, we kind of started to like test the boundaries a little bit and like redefine what that meant for us. So we started doing these like pop-up installation shows at bars. We did 2 last year. Where we created this like small like room almost out of like wood panels, and we placed them in these like hallways of these bars, and just to create an experience and kind of like bridge that gap within our community of like what the accessibility and also like what kind of things we could do in our own community despite like not being in a traditional gallery space, you know?
That's awesome. I need to see pictures, is what it's sounding like. So for events, so I'll admit that DAAART, we do too much currently. But I also am very blessed to have a larger board. We have a volunteer board. There's around 6 of us, and we're all working and volunteering in various capacities. We also have almost like a cohort of like member leaders, where I am very open to, so like the only thing is never come to me with a good idea because I'll make you do it. So we've had some members say like, hey, can we do an arts and crafts session meetup, and where we just like ignore each other and just work on our own work? And I was like, yeah, when are you gonna do it? Just let me know and we'll put it on our Discord, and then I'll help you find a location and you're gonna lead it. We've also had separately an event called, so all of these are monthly at this point, and I only lead one of them, so I'm very grateful for that. We also have a thing called food tours. So for Asian culture, food is a big part of how we build relationships. So every month, members vote on a different Asian business that they'll go and support, and then they'll also use that as a time to practice their portrait drawings or sketch one another. Because my only requirement is that we're not just hanging out, we're cultivating ourselves as creatives as well. And then of course we have our biggest monthly event of our creative coffee meetups. I try to find people of color owned businesses and women owned businesses, because the fact is we're going to be there for 4 to 5 hours and we're spending a lot of money feeding ourselves. So I want to invest back into our communities as well. I think I had a question that I started with that I'm supposed to answer, but I don't remember it.
Was it the good? No.
No, was it like key lessons?
Yes.
We're only a year and a half old at this point, so a lot of our lessons, I haven't even really been able to like look back and be like, yeah, we learned some great things that we're gonna apply in the future, because we've had so many different case studies and different challenges that there's a new thing specifically that comes up, which is all very vague. But I think what I've learned early on is so cheesy, but giving myself permission to lead, where there's a clear vision and people benefit when I'm being more explicit with what expectations are and also delegating very clearly. And then I think the thing that I've been getting better at, and it's a core part of how I try to run this organization, but it's empowering others to lead so that they can take over once I'm gone. But with that being said, I'm going to pivot into our last panel question before we open it up to the audience, and it's a blue sky question. So if you had all the funding in the world, what would you envision for your organization?
I think for us, it would be so amazing if we could have like our own permanent space, especially with like wanting to, because we have like 1 day gallery shows. Like it would be so great to be able to like host the art for more than 1 day, like, you know, like have it for a couple weeks. And I think it would also be great just for like, as our team continues to grow, to be able to have that space for us to meet, because a lot of our meetings are like remote. But it would be also like really nice to just have the space to be able to invite people from the community and come in, like do workshops with us, and even just like having people just come in and like chat with us and like wanting to be involved with like even just like volunteering us with helping us with like making our props or things like that, you know. I feel like that would be like a very nice thing for us.
And it's gonna happen.
Yeah, we're giving ourselves a couple years, but you know.
Daryl knows my answer. It would be a State of Black Arts symposium that we would do on a yearly basis, where we bring in the people that are doing it great in the city, the people who are trying to do it better. Let's bring in the artist perspectives. Let's bring in folks from outside the city, from Houston, from DC, from New York, from LA, to talk about how they're doing Black arts differently than what we're doing here in North Texas, and have these conversations. I'm a big believer in that the bubble of DE&I will shrink unless the patrons speak. So unless there's more collectors that look like the artists and are buying from the artist and are participating in the arts, you will see the continued rise and fall of the artist of color. I want to be optimistic and say that's not what's happening, but it is. You look at the data, you look at the sales, you look at all these things, and you see our emerging artists hurt, and you see our bigger artists stay comfortable, but could be better. So I think a symposium like this, where we're on a level playing field and having these hard conversations together and celebrating our wins, most importantly, what are we doing well, is important for the collectors, for the galleries, for the museums, for the artists to come together and be at a table together to have these conversations.
I love, yeah, no, I'm just like, my neck is about to break from all the head nodding I've been doing from each of y'all's answers. So also I am the creative director for the Dallas Asian American Historical Society. So a dream that we've shared with the DAAART Collective is for there to be an Asian American Cultural Center or an Asian American Art Museum here in Dallas. That's something we would love to see someday, because we have many Asian diasporic artists here, and filmmakers and photographers and people who make things. So it would also be a space for us to exist and be represented uniquely as Asian Americans and not Asian imports, not just perpetual foreigners, as people would like to say. And then on the other hand, a dream that I've been pitching actually is a month of Asian American arts programming here in Dallas. So in my vision, we have it between April Arts Month and then APAM, which is May, Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, very long. And we'd be able to showcase all Asian art, all Asian American arts, such as the literary arts, culinary arts, performance arts, and culminate in a big festival. And I've named it in my dreams Ginger Roots Texas, because ginger is something that is used by all corners of Asia, from the west to the Pacific Islands, and roots referring to the fact that we've been here since the 1800s. And by here, I don't mean California, I mean Texas. There have been Asians building railroads. And so just pointing out this relationship of how we've been giving to and also receiving from this land that we're in. So those are my two big dreams. And also, I think for all of us, maybe like great salaries.
Yeah, that'd be nice. If I could quit my day job, that'd be great. Love it.
Okay, so with that being said, thank you so much for y'all's time. We're gonna open it up to the audience. Thank you for bearing with us as we shared in love and joy. Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes, Layli.
It's like, I really don't want to be the first one to ask a question, but I do have a question. How do you combat imposter syndrome as you're kind of entering a lot of these spaces that you might not see someone who looks like you, or you need to kind of negotiate a deal that is in your favor for your organizations?
So if you want to say that question.
Yes. So the question was around how to combat imposter syndrome in the spaces that you're entering where you might be the only or the first to do the work that you're doing. I'm a big believer that imposter syndrome is false. I will start with that. Imposter syndrome is a made-up white people term. Sorry, I know that's really...
Keep talking.
It really is to place marginalized people in boxes that we do not actually exist in. I'm a big believer, if you are in the room that you are in, you are more than qualified to do so, and you are there for a reason. And that is your job to be that reason, and show up as your authentic self. When it comes to that, I have a list of reasons why in my journal, why am I here, that literally list out all the things that I am very good at. So when I'm concerned about, am I qualified to do this, I go look at that list and say, oh yeah, I'm more than qualified. And then I also have a board of directors that reminds me that I am very, very qualified. And these are my friends. These are my mentors, my friends, all that stuff that I go to in these situations. But also the big thing is to remember you're not alone in this. Use your resources. If you're having to go into negotiations, hire a lawyer. Like, it's expensive, I know it's daunting, but you don't have to do it by yourself. Outsource what you need to outsource to be better at this, and you won't have to worry about imposter syndrome anymore because you're well equipped with a team to do this work.
I think for me, I don't think I ever really felt it like an imposter syndrome because I was really young and I was just kind of like going with the like desire to do something, and because I had no real like concept of what I was even doing, I didn't have the limitation on myself, or I also believe that like my teammates, I don't think they ever felt like that either, because we didn't really know like what kinds of limits were placed on us, so we just kind of like did our own thing. But I feel that we have a lot of like community support as well, and that would kind of just like keep reinforcing us to keep doing what we're doing. And even with our shows, like we've created such a community where we see like the same people over and over again, and they'll just ask us like, oh, like when's the next CIMA thing, or like even businesses as well. They're very supportive of what it is that we're doing. So I don't think that we ever really felt this like imposter syndrome. It was just kind of like we're chasing our dreams and we're making them happen.
I think for me, I find myself in places where I'm like, oh, I feel really high up. Can I stay balanced on this peak that I've found myself on? And then, so I like to talk. I believe that I am good at engaging in conversation. And so often that leads me to being let into rooms and entering places that I didn't think I'd be able to. But I kind of treat it like throwing your hat over the fence and now you have to go get it. But with that being said, it's also, they let you in. So, and do you see anyone else doing that work? No, that's you. Who are you fighting in your mind? So for me, it's been a lot of like, well, people of color do work extra hard to get into these spaces, and that's because we have to, unfortunately, with how the world is currently structured here. And so it's like, you are more qualified than the average person. So just like gaslighting, you're gaslighting. Yeah. Anyone else from the audience?
I would say, how do y'all motivate yourselves past your day job to keep pushing to do the side projects y'all do? Because I know for myself, like, I consider myself a studio artist outside of my design job, but when I'm mentally taxed from a 40-hour week to actually pursue my other passion after that, how do y'all like find like schedules or ways to like boost yourself after you get off at 5 p.m.?
I'm a very like root.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, I'm sorry. He's asking how do we keep ourselves motivated past our like regular day jobs to keep continuing the work that we do in our org. I'm a very routine-based person, so like our team does a really good job of meeting Tuesdays and Wednesdays, like especially right now since we have a lot of events coming up, we're like attending these meetings pretty regularly. So I think things like that, keeping a schedule and holding each other accountable, especially within our team, really helps a lot, because sometimes you're tired, like even in our meetings, like we'll say like, oh, like we're tired, but we know that there's things that need to be done, and we won't really know what the other person is doing if we don't meet. So we try to like really keep ourselves accountable with those types of things.
Sometimes you don't. Not gonna lie. Sometimes I run our social media. Sometimes there are weeks where we just don't have social media for that week, and I give myself that grace to not do it. That is kind of one of the things about a passion project. If it's not filling your cup, why are you choosing to do it? Definitely if it's something that you're choosing to do, nothing is tied to it. I do want y'all to keep creating. Please don't take that as me saying stop creating. But sometimes you have to give yourself the grace to be burnt out, to relax, so you can come back even stronger. I will say we have a pretty good routine of a text message thread to go back and forth on ideas for events. We figure out things as they need to get figured out. I know no one is going to die because I did not post something or we did not have an event this month. As long as we are serving our community on a holistic scale, we are happy. And that's what we focus more on than the little steps by steps things. We could get better organized, not gonna lie. We could, and we will. But it's a balance. And sometimes in that balance, you have to drop something. And you drop what's not going to break, or at least not shatter. And sometimes that is Black Arts DFW for a moment, and then we pick it back up. But we purposely kind of build downtimes into our schedule, working with patrons too. We know August and like late July into August is not a great month to host events. Everyone is traveling. We know December is filled with holiday parties. Do we want to really compete with that? So we have some natural cadence breaks, which is really helpful for us to refresh and do the other things we're passionate about and then come back re-energized for it. But I definitely encourage, evaluate why you're doing it. Does it bring you joy? And if not, why doesn't it bring you joy anymore? Have you put too much behind it? And go from there.
So our collective consists of art professionals and also art hobbyists. So a lot of them have their 9-to-5s. And what's worked is actually peer pressure, creating in community. And so we'll have things like, hey, this is actually an art challenge. Like, if anyone wants to join in, do it. Or we have weekly co-working sessions on our Discord. So people hop on at like 9 p.m. at night, and then they're just doodling together. Or it's like, hey, I've actually produced this piece of music, do y'all wanna listen? And so doing things by yourself is so hard, especially creative things. When you know that someone else is there doing something else, and so you feel the fun of it again, and you're re-inspired to do it, and you're not putting too much pressure on yourself, that's when creation happens. And so what I would encourage you to do is actually create in community, or like just keep one another accountable in that way. So a lot of our members have said that since joining DAART, they've made the most art they have in their entire lives. But sometimes I think for me personally, it comes down to perfectionism, where I'm just like, if it's not good, if I don't execute it well, I don't want to do it. But a lot of my best work starts from when I'm just like, okay, what if I just like trick myself into thinking it's just a sketch, and then I start doing it. So that's how I found balance in creating. And also, like with what you said earlier, like I work 3 jobs and only one of them pays. So sometimes having more flexibility in your day job also does help. Like realistically, art is time and money, and that's why the art world looks a certain way. Anybody else from the audience? Yes.
For Reyna, so you were talking about setting up, like y'all became a 501c3 and that it helped level up. Can you touch a bit more about like what happened? Like what's the result of that?
What's the result of becoming an official nonprofit?
And like leveling up, like.
I think it was very much like mental for us. Like it was more like it was just the title, because we were already offering these same kind of services before, and like we had the same mission and everything. But I think that having the nonprofit title really helped us kind of like be more ambitious and be more confident in the services that we were providing and the people that we were reaching out to help us with these things.
Were you able to get more money?
Yes. Yeah,
Can you say
definitely.
the question into the mic?
Yeah, definitely a lot more money. Because we were doing everything out of pocket, but now we have a generous amount of, we have people that are very generous in helping us, even with just like providing spaces sometimes, and like businesses tend to help us a lot too with like sponsoring like things, or like Topo Chico sponsored one of our events, so they gave us a lot of topos and stuff. Yeah.
Any other questions? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Okay, I'm gonna close us out with, is there anything else y'all would like to brag about that's that y'all are doing that you'd like to share with a wider audience?
I talked already about the carnival. Come, it's gonna be so much fun. And then we're also having a fashion show in December. It's still in the works, the planning, but that's gonna be also really fun too. It's gonna be our first. We're gonna have like a runway and everything. I think it's really fun to kind of move out of the like traditional gallery space type of art events and kind of like embrace this other side of like art in all its forms.
We have an event in September coming up. We'll be at the Nasher, holding a little tour for our members, but also doing the night at the Nasher type fun stuff as well. It'd be a great opportunity to get a behind the scenes, kind of intimate look at the Nasher, because if you've been but haven't been on like one of their tours, it's not quite the same to have the curator walk you through what the artist was thinking and the mystery behind it all and the years that it took to get something up exhibit-wise and different things. It's really fun. It's some of our favorite events to do is with the Nasher, and they treat us well too, so it helps.
Yeah, for us, once again, we've got our Mid-Autumn Moon Art Market coming up September 21st. Other than that, if you are an Asian American creative, please come talk to me. We want to get to know you because we've got big dreams, big visions, and things are going to happen for us. So other than that, everybody, thank you so much for partaking in this conversation with us, and please give a big round of applause to our wonderful panelists.